I'm a nutritional health coach at Natural Grocers, and I've been here, oh gosh, going on almost 6 years now. And my background, just so you know, before we begin the presentation, I have a PhD in a field called pharmacognosy, which is kind of like natural products chemistry. It's the study of the chemistry of a natural product that gives it some biological activity. And I worked for a number of years in the manufacturing side of supplements, doing quality control and technical presentation on products, that sort of thing. And spent lots of years in educational settings, and then came back to this side of things, to the retail side of things. Anyway, today we're going to be talking about bone health. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen with you here. Okay. Oops, looks like I'm on the second slide, sorry. There we go. Jack, everything look all right?
Everything is good.
Okay. Let's see. Okay, great. All right, you guys. So this presentation is organized. We talk just a little bit about sort of the chemistry, biology of bones, a little bit of the structure of bones. Then we're going to talk about the things that deteriorate bones, the bone breakers, as the title says. And then this last half of the presentation, we talk about the bone builders. So that'll be kind of the organization of things. All right, and I do have a quick disclaimer here. This class is not intended to diagnose, treat, or mitigate diseases. Supplements, we are not allowed to equate supplements to any kind of a drug action. They are simply supporting the health of the systems of the body. So we hopefully won't talk about supplements in that way. Also, just a quick reminder to people that supplements and foods can interact with prescription medicines. If you have any concerns at all, I often tell people to check with their pharmacist. Some pharmacists will say they don't know, but some have software they can check for interactions for you. Just a quick plug for Natural Grocers. I don't know how many of you shop at our store, but there's a couple things that makes us a little bit different. A lot of the stores have a nutritional health coach like me. Our job is education. I do classes in the community like we're doing today. I do classes here in the store. I do one-on-one coaching sessions with people. Say they've just learned that their cholesterol's high and they want to go see what they can do with their diet instead of taking a medication. We can explore things like that. So education is number one on our founding principles. Quality, we've got a whole huge list of things we don't carry in the store. You won't find any artificial flavors or preservatives or colors anywhere in the store. Our produce is 100% organic, things like that. And we do things for the community. This is education, but it's also a community building opportunity. So thank you guys for joining us today. All right, so let's talk a little bit about bone. And so you can see the pictures here, and what you're seeing is actually the mineral matrix of the bone, as opposed there's actually also a protein matrix that sort of weaves in and out of this additionally. So the mineral matrix is what makes up, well, we're going to be talking about this a little bit more on the next couple slides, but it's nice to talk about this a little while you've got the picture. So the minerals make up the sturdiness or the rigidity of your bones. And then that protein matrix that's not shown as well here gives the bones flexibility, keeps them from being so brittle that they break. But I've got a few sort of the unpleasant facts here. So let me give you a few stats. So that first one that's bold across the front here, 10 million Americans have osteoporosis. That's pretty huge. And the precursor to osteoporosis, osteopenia, is at least 10 times that. So many Americans in my age bracket and older are struggling with osteopenia, which is beginnings of the bone loss that's not quite to the point of the osteoporosis. About 20% of these are men, so the majority of people with osteopenia and osteoporosis are women. Some of that has to do with hormones, which we'll talk about in a minute. And we're going to talk a lot about lifestyle, because there's, interestingly enough, a lot more than just taking your calcium supplement involved in keeping your bones healthy. And I presume that's why a lot of you have attended the class today, is to kind of see what do we do to keep our bones healthy. So this is kind of a nice slide, talks about, as I said in that previous picture, we've got the minerals which make up that hard matrix that holds the bones vertical, holds them rigid. And then you've got the proteins, of which collagen is about 95%. Oops, sorry guys. So about 95% of the proteins that make our bones flexible is collagen. Then we also have this osteocalcin, which is another type of protein that's involved in our bone mineralization, and we'll talk about it just a little bit in a minute. So what's also interesting to note is that bones are not just calcium. There's a lot of other minerals that are part of that matrix. So calcium and phosphorus are bound together in a single compound, calcium phosphate. And then there's magnesium, silica, there's some boron, some strontium. There's actually 24 different nutrients that are involved in the bone mineralization. So it's a lot more complicated than we're just led to believe. One of the other things that I want to talk about while we're looking at this picture of the skeleton is the bones actually are a reservoir for calcium, and calcium does much more than just form bones in our body. Actually, one of its most important function is to keep the pH of our blood in this really narrow range. Our life depends on our pH of our blood staying within this really tiny range, and calcium is the main thing that keeps it in that range. So if our blood gets too acidic, our body will actually leach calcium from our bones to keep our blood in that range. So calcium, our bones are kind of like a storage house for calcium, if you want to. That's kind of an interesting way to think of it. The other thing is to note that that bones are a living structure. They ebb and flow daily. They change continuously, and this is a little bit of what's going on that builds and breaks down our bones. We have two kinds of cells that are part of our bone matrix: osteoclast and osteoblast. And these names make me a little crazy, because osteoblast, you would assume just that name, blast, that it would be the cell that breaks down bones, but it's not. It's the opposite. So the osteoclasts are the ones that break down the bone, the old bone, help it. It's like recyclers. They're the recyclers of old bone that's needing to be cleaned up a little bit. And the osteoblasts are the cells that help bring the calcium and the magnesium and the phosphorus together to make new bone. So we're going to be talking about these guys a little bit and supporting the health of those osteoblasts and things that increase the osteoclast. And you guys probably sort of already have a sense of this, but this puts some numbers to it. The peak of our bone health is around the age of 30. Up to 30, we're building new bones. After 30, we actually start losing bone a little faster than we're creating new bone. Doesn't mean that it's that you automatically are going to have osteoporosis by the time you're a certain age. A lot of other factors play into that, but it is just as a way of thinking of it. Our bones are at their strongest when we're in our 30s. So if any of you are young, have young family members, you might encourage them towards some of these bone builder things, letting them know that that they can start any time to keep their bones healthy. Okay, so hormones, one of the first places to start in talking about bone health is the hormones. And I think a lot of us women know, because we've, some of us have gone through menopause, that estrogen plays a big role in the hormones, a big role in the bone health. And it turns out testosterone and progesterone also play a real formative role in these bone health. They not only help increase the osteoblasts, that's why you're seeing the picture of the osteoblasts here on the positive side of things, the bone growth. But some of the hormones, like estrogen deficiency, even in men can be estrogen deficient as well, can lead to bone breakdown, increasing these osteoclasts, an excess of thyroid hormone, and an excess of cortisol. So the hormone cortisol may be one, I'm presuming most of you have heard of estrogen and testosterone and thyroid. You may or may not have heard of cortisol. We talked about it a little last time I did a class. Cortisol is the hormone that's elevated when we are under times of stress. It does other things in the body. Actually, when our blood sugar's gone too high and too low, we have a lot of cortisol then too. So physical and emotional stress can lead to high cortisol. So cortisol actually increases bone breakdown. So stress can lead to cortisol, which can lead to bone breakdown. So I don't know too many of us who aren't struggling with a little bit of stress, but just be aware that managing that stress is part of your process toward keeping your bones healthy. And you guys, let's see, I'm going to put on my chat real quick here. I think if anybody has a question, feel free to type it in the chat. Okay, so you guys, this is a real quick slide talking about the things that are bone breakers, things that lead toward a much quicker resorption of the bone materials and the bones becoming more fragile. Smoking, we all know that smoking is not particularly good for you, but what it does a number of things. It directly damages bone matrix, so it makes your bones more fragile just directly, but it also reduces the body's ability to absorb calcium. So you're kind of getting it from both sides. You're getting damage, but you're also preventing the rebuilding of those bone matrix. So if you're struggling to quit smoking, this is yet another reason to think about quitting smoking. Processed foods. So processed foods, those are foods that are, we talk a lot about nutrient density when we're here in my office, and processed foods are foods that are not very nutrient dense. They have a lot of carbohydrates, they maybe have a lot of not so good fats, things that are okay in small amounts, but we want to balance. Oh goodness, I just flipped my mouse, you guys, forgive me. I caught my shoe on it and threw it off the table. Anyway, so processed foods are foods that are low in nutrition. And the part of the problem with them is a lot of them create inflammation, and chronic inflammation is also very hard on the bones. Certain medications can be hard on the bones. A particularly difficult one would be the corticosteroids. Corticosteroids actually block the absorption of minerals, and let's see, there's the Annals of Annals of Internal Medicine did a little study, and they said you could have as much as 8% reduction in bone mass after 4 months of using corticosteroids. So pretty significant bone loss from that particular medicine. If you have thoughts about that, you might check with your pharmacist or your doctor. Another thing another kind of medicine that's really common right now are the acid reducing medications, the Prilosec, the acid pump inhibitors. By reducing stomach acid, you significantly reduce your body's ability to absorb minerals. So I actually do a lot of talking in the aisles and in my office here with people who've been on those for a long time. I cannot personally help you with the medicine side of things, but I can give you alternatives that you can work with your doctor and play with. So if you have interest in talking about ways to reduce acid reflux without using those medicines, I'd be happy to talk with you. Digestion. So we already talked about the fact that stomach acid was essential to absorbing your minerals. So any kind of compromised digestion is going to slow your absorption of most nutrients. Stress hormones, we've talked about cortisol and its effect on bones, and certain medical conditions actually help reduce or inhibit the production of bones. Things like hormonal disorders, that sort of makes sense, doesn't it? Rheumatoid arthritis, celiac disease, eating disorders, insulin-dependent diabetes, seizure disorders, GI disorders, that makes sense, right? All of those can lead to either the medications or the conditions can lead to issues with the bone health. So that was a lot in one slide. I apologize. So obviously you can't eliminate all of these things or avoid all of these things all the time, but the more you do, the better you're protecting your health. And I hope that makes sense to everybody. And please feel free to ask questions if you need to. Okay, so now we're going to talk about the bone builders. And this is just an overview. We're going to spend a little bit of time talking about exercise and the various supplements that are out there in the world that help with the bone health. But then we're going to also loop back around and talk about diet and that as kind of we're going to talk about diet after we talk about these different supplements. Okay, so the exercise, I don't think anybody's probably too surprised about this, but it turns out that weight-bearing exercise, and here's a list of a variety of weight-bearing exercises, helps to stimulate those osteoblasts to grow new bone. So bone density is directly affected by these things. And I wanted to particularly point out unipedal standing. I don't know if any of you know what that is. Uni meaning one, pedal leg. So one leg standing. So if you think about it, if you switch all your weight to just one leg, you've automatically doubled the weight that leg is holding. So it's a weight bearing exercise, right? So unipedal standing is as simple as when you're doing your dishes or you're brushing your teeth. If you'll stand on one leg for 1 minute and then stand on the other leg for another minute, then you have done a weight-bearing exercise. And they say they've done a little mini study. This isn't one that you probably need to take verbatim, but they've shown that doing the unipedal exercise for 1 minute 3 times a day has the bone benefits of walking 53 minutes a day. I don't know quite how they figured that out exactly, but anyway, a very simple thing to add to your routine. Okay, vitamin D. Vitamin D, next to the amount of calcium, is probably one of the most important things for bone health. and probably a lot of you already know this. So vitamin D is one of the few vitamins. Vitamin is a term for something that our bodies have to normally, with the exception of vitamin D, means we have to consume them. Vitamin D, our bodies do make vitamin D, but rarely do we make enough with our current lifestyles, I guess is a good way to say it. Vitamin D is made by UV light hitting the surface of the skin and reacting with derivatives of cholesterol to produce this compound, this vitamin D. And but to get a good amount of vitamin D production, you have to have a fair amount of skin exposure. You have to have sunlight from a certain angle, so only mostly during the middle of the day. And in certain seasons, like in the winter, that sunlight is so low on the horizon, you're not getting enough of that UV light to create a lot of vitamin D. So for most of us, particularly in the winter at these higher latitudes, it's recommended that we supplement with vitamin D. And if you have any thoughts, concerns about taking too much, the having your levels checked is a fairly simple and standard thing for doctors to do, and a good way to be sure that you're getting enough. But anyway, I went off on a tangent. So vitamin D aids with the absorption of calcium. It works in conjunction with vitamin K, which we'll talk about next, to show calcium where to go in the body, to keep it from the places you don't want it to go and put it in the places where you do want it to go. It also helps regulate this other protein we talked about, this osteocalcin, which is a bone building protein. Okay, so vitamin K, we talked about vitamin K, or I mentioned in the last slide that vitamin K and vitamin D work in partnership to help the calcium know where to go in the body. It does the same with magnesium, kind of helps it know where to go in the body. So like vitamin D, it works with this osteocalcin to help hold the calcium to the bone. There's also this other compound, this matrix GLA, that makes sure that the calcium goes into the bone where you want it to be. So vitamin K, if you come to a health food store like ours, you'll see a variety of vitamin Ks. There's a vitamin K1, there's a vitamin K2, and then vitamin K2 actually has two types. There's an MK4 and an MK7. Is that nice and confusing? So vitamin K1 plays more of a role in formation of blood clots. And vitamin K2 is more the one you want when you're thinking about bone health. The MK4 and the MK7 are two different forms. Some say MK7 is a little better absorbed, but I think they both have been studied to be very beneficial for bone health. So either one I think is a fine choice for MK or for vitamin K. Okay, so other vitamins, this is just a real quick list of things. Vitamin C, we talked about collagen being the most abundant protein that keeps those bones flexible. Vitamin C is essential for your body to make collagen. Collagen is part of the strength of lots of things in your body. Your skin has a layer of collagen matrix, your blood vessels have a layer of collagen matrix, your bones. There's a lot of things in your body are dependent on this production of collagen. So having plenty of vitamin C is important for that aspect of your bone health. Some of the other vitamins that are important, vitamin B12, folic acid, and B6. The B12 stimulates these osteoblast cells, helping form new cells. Homocysteine, high homocysteine levels interfere with the production of the collagen matrix we talk about. I don't know if you've heard of homocysteine. It's something you can actually get blood levels checked. It's been shown to be an indicator of of inflammation in the body. It can be somewhat of an indicator of heart health. So watching your homocysteine levels can be one of a variety of things you check in addition to cholesterol when you're determining your health of your heart. But homocysteine levels, when they're high, it's an indication of a lot of inflammation. And as we talked about, we want to keep inflammation low. Okay, so calcium, that's the one everybody thinks of when they think of with bones, and rightfully so. It's the most abundant mineral in the body. I do hope that you walk away today realizing that calcium does a lot more than bones. It's very important for the body. And we talked about having adequate stomach acid in order to absorb your minerals. We also talked about, actually we have the when you come and look at different calciums on the shelf, you'll see that they have all kinds of different things. You've got calcium carbonates, you've got calcium citrates, you've got algae calciums, and you've got calcium phosphates and calcium ascorbates. There's a lot of different types of calcium, and the thing to which the calcium is bound can determine how well it's absorbed. Calcium carbonate, which is the calcium that's in Tums, is only moderately well absorbed. If you take it with an acid, orange juice or something, it's a little better absorbed. The ones, this says Krebs cycle intermediates. Those of us that are chemists might know what that means. So things like the citrate and the, let's see, I don't know if I have one with that, with the Krebs cycle intermediate. I think these are mostly algae ones. Anyway, those are better absorbed. The ones with the amino acids are better absorbed. So there, a lot of what we carry are these better absorbed better absorbed calcium products. Anyway, if you have questions, I'd be happy to answer more. Okay, magnesium. I don't think people realize how important magnesium is. It's really critical to the calcium being transported into the bone. And about, what does it say, 75 to 85% of people do not consume the RDA amount of magnesium. For men, it's about 420 milligrams per day, and for women, it's about 320. But the thing to know is magnesium is depleted in times of stress. So there we go, our fun friend stress there again. So when we're in times of stress, we actually might need even more than the quantities indicated here. So since magnesium is essential to bone health, it's needed in addition to your calcium. And I do have a nice customer literature file. If anybody's interested, you can send me an email and I'll drop you my email address here in a second. That lists foods that are high in magnesium and foods that are high in calcium. Or, well, you can find those on Google too, of course, but I've got a list put together. Strontium is also a mineral that a lot of people haven't heard of. It's fairly high in the bone matrix, obviously, and it gives strength to the bones. They've actually done studies to show that adding strontium to a bone product helps increase the bone density. And it helps, it accumulates in the bone, and it helps the calcium kind of absorb to that bone area. I don't know if that makes any sense. It's just sort of it's a little like a helping hand that kind of puts those calcium and magnesiums where they need to go. Hopefully that made sense. All right, other important minerals: zinc for the collagen formation, copper helps slow down the breakdown of bone, and in case you don't know it, excess zinc actually depletes the body of copper. So some of our zinc products have a little bit of copper in them, just to make sure that that doesn't happen.
Dominic, two in the office, please.
Oh, sorry,
Dominic,
guys.
two in the office. Thank you.
Silicone is Another thing that's interesting, it's important for collagen formation. So it's in our hair, skin, and nails area, but also very important for bone health. So some of my most favorite bone products actually have silica in them, as well as some of these other minerals we're talking about. Um, just to plug, this is probably my favorite bone product just because it has, oh, thank you, Jack. Just because it has all of these minerals that we're talking about. This one has vitamin C, vitamin D, vitamin K, calcium, magnesium, strontium, boron, silicon, and vanadium, which isn't even listed on here. Anyway, nice product. These others are sort of have a lot of those same minerals. Not this one just doesn't happen to have boron or silica, but it's a nice product. This one's interesting. It's a powder that mixes in water. This one has collagen in it, which these others do not have, but it does, and it has boron, but it doesn't have the silicon in it. So a variety of options for you if you need to take a bone supplement. Digestive enzymes and hydrochloric acid, those are possibilities for helping increase your calcium absorbability. I would like to, I've got a customer literature file on using acids and enzymes, and I'd love to go over that with you before you jump right on that bandwagon, because there are other things you can try just to stimulate your own digestion. For example, bitters, I think, is a good way to stimulate your natural digestion without having to turn to enzymes and HCl. Fish oil is always important for lots of things in the body. These omega-3s are very helpful for supporting healthy inflammation in the body. They help, by doing that, they help reduce that degradation of bone. And they also, by supporting healthy inflammatory responses, we also help build that bone matrix again. So it helps in both directions. So healthy meal wheel, this is our, what we call our meal wheel. This is our suggestion of how to eat. I know this picture looks a little different than the one you're seeing on the screen. I don't know if you, Jack, I'm presuming you can see my face and what I'm holding up. Excuse me. So for our plate, we're recommending half a plate of vegetables, so you get your nutrient density, about a quarter of your plate of protein, a little bit of healthy fats, a little bit of carbohydrate, a little bit of fruit. And by eating that way, you're focusing on the what we call mineral nutrient density, and therefore your minerals that we're hoping to get for our bodies, also helping support your hormones and a variety of other things that keep those bones healthy. So at Natural Grocers, we only sell 100% organic. Not everybody can afford 100% organic fruits and vegetables, but one of the advantages to organic vegetables where you can afford them is they've been shown to be a little bit higher in nutrition, and that's in part because of the way the organic farmers have to build up the soil and keep things in a little bit healthier state in order for those fruits and veggies to be more resistant to the pests and rots and things like that. The other thing too is the pesticides are a toxin to our bodies. Anytime you add a toxin to your body, your body has to deal with that. It has to process it. It has to eliminate it. So it's just more work for the body to have to do. Therefore, using up some of those nutrients that we would like to use for the health of our body. I think that probably makes some sense. Okay, we talked about a palm size portion of protein, just about the size of your palm. And the protein is critical for bone health. We talked about that collagen matrix. So when you eat your proteins, they break down in your stomach to amino acids, and then they're reassembled for the things your body needs them for. And one of them is those collagens, enzymes to make proteins, just a variety of things that play a role in your bone health. So having plenty of protein is essential for your bone health. Okay, just to also to talk a little bit about the quality of your protein, and that actually does make a difference. At Natural Grocers, we believe that the meats that we sell should be humanely raised, and we want them to be treated in a way that encourages what we call natural behaviors. We don't want them crammed in a little tiny cage where they can't move. So all of our meat products have to reach these standards. They have to have been provided humane care. They have not given antibiotics, growth hormones, or other growth promotants, and they're not fed animal byproducts. And this is good for you for a variety of reasons. So the humanely raised food that's allowed to eat what it's meant to eat gives you actually a much higher nutrition. So here's a number of things that you find in a grass-fed cow that are that's higher than a regular commercially raised cow. The zinc, coenzyme Q, L-carnitine, vitamins A and C, conjugated linoleic acid. That's an acid that helps, a fat that helps manage healthy weight. This fatty acid profile, what's interesting is that grass-fed cows are actually much higher in those omega-3s. Remember we talked about fish oil being good for supporting healthy inflammation. Grass-fed cows are much, much higher in those omega-3s than a corn-fed cow. Corn-fed cows are really high in something called omega-6s, which are tend to be more pro-inflammatory. So by eating cows that eat what nature intended, you get a better balance of the healthy fats. Oh, speaking of healthy fats, so healthy fats are also very important for bone health because they support the health of your hormones. A lot of your hormones are dependent on having the appropriate fats in your body, including cholesterol. A lot of the precursor to a lot of the hormones is actually cholesterol, believe it or not. Your heart health, your brain health, a lot of things in your body are dependent on healthy oils. Now, if you're a vegan and you don't want to eat a processed oil, you can still get healthy oils through your avocados, through your nuts and seeds. For those of us that eat dairy or eat meat, you're getting some healthy fats through those products as well. So doesn't mean I want you to run out and eat a stick of butter. I'm just saying consider eating a little healthy fats with each meal and snack. And the nice thing about healthy fats, if you're trying to lose weight, fats are actually the most satiating of all the foods. So eating a little salad dressing or an avocado or a little handful of nuts with your salad can make that food keep you satisfied longer. You're not craving food. You're not going to crave food as quickly. So moderation foods, these are foods that are going to wrestle your blood sugar, I guess is the main reason we want to keep these in moderation. And they're, in some cases, a little less nutrient dense than the vegetables that we talked about earlier. So high sugar fruits are bananas and our apples. Low sugar fruits would be things, and melons. Low sugar fruits would be your berries. So if you're diabetic, pre-diabetic, or even if you're just trying to stay healthy and want to keep your blood sugar as balanced as possible, eat those high sugar fruits in small quantities, or eat them with a protein, or focus on just the berries if you want fruit. Grains and legumes have a lot of nice fiber, they have benefit, but again, eat them in moderation and balance them out with your more nutrient dense vegetables. Same with these other things like sweet potatoes, great. I love sweet potatoes, have a lot of nutrition, but you want to eat them in moderation just simply because of the blood sugar issue. Gluten-free starches is a new thing to think about. A lot of people are gluten-free, so they think they're doing great things by eating gluten-free products, gluten-free flours, but do be careful because some of those can be really high in carbohydrates. Okay, foods to limit or eliminate. We talked about these earlier. Coffee and the caffeine that's in coffee reduces your absorption. In fact, caffeine encourages your body to eliminate calcium. It sloughs calcium in your urine. Soft drinks are a triple whammy. You've got your caffeine, you've got your high sugar, and then you've got phosphoric acid, which is put in there kind of as a preservative to retain that sort of tart flavor. But phosphoric acid actually is really tough on your bones. It leaches minerals from your bones like crazy. So you get soda pops are a three-way whammy for bone health. So I encourage you, if you're still drinking sodas, to consider reducing or eliminating your sodas, or find ones without phosphoric acid. And we do have stevia sweetened sodas here, which I'm sure you can find at other stores too. Reduce your white flours and refined sugars. Refined salt is an interesting term. Not everybody thinks of that as, so when you buy just regular table salt, sodium chloride, without a sea salt is got a lot of little trace minerals in it. It's got a lot of other minerals in it. And something about the addition of those other minerals, even though it's still really high in that molecule sodium chloride, those other trace minerals sort of give balance to salt and help it get used better by the body. But refined salt, just straight sodium chloride, without all the trace minerals that you find in a sea salt, actually increases your calcium, the urination of calcium, kind of like the caffeine does, which is kind of interesting, isn't it? I find that fascinating. Okay, so I've sort of mentioned this a number of times, and I won't go into this too much, but keeping your blood sugar balanced is essential for all kinds of health, but since we're talking about bone health, specifically for bone health. So anytime you eat more carbohydrate, here's the kind of the range of healthy blood sugar, these two gray lines here. Anytime you drink a soda pop or eat too many pancakes or eat 3 slices of bread instead of 1, you're likely spiking your blood sugar. And all kinds of things can happen. One thing that can happen is you'll have the crash afterwards, where you get your insulin works too well and you get low blood sugar afterwards and you start having the cravings. Another thing that can happen is over time we become insulin resistant and the blood sugar never comes back to normal, or just dips to normal for a short time and then goes back up over. So there's a lot of things that happen over time if we don't keep our blood sugar balanced. And we talked about how the stress, the cortisol, there's a lot of reasons why managing blood sugar affects your bone health. Okay, so here's your action plan. This is kind of like a summary. You want to eliminate or avoid those bone breakers, find ways to reduce your stress, etc. Eat a nutrient-dense diet. Add in the bone builders if you feel like you're not getting enough in your diet. And if you need, I'm here for coaching sessions if you want to, and coaching sessions are free. I don't think I said that earlier. All of my services are free. So if you know somebody who's wanting to spend a little more time talking about these nutrients, then I'm available for that. And a couple resources we have here in the store. We have what's called customer literature files. We've got about 4 on bone health. A lot of the things are things we've covered today. There's things like calcium and how to improve its absorption. There's things on osteoporosis. There's one on the other minerals besides calcium that play a role in bones. Those are free and available to customers. And I grabbed a couple books. I didn't know if anybody was wanting to dig in a little deeper. Syndrome X is a, oh, I'm going to stop sharing here. Hold on. Okay, there we go. Syndrome X is a book that talks about this sort of modern, I guess I'm going to call it a disease state, although it's not quite a disease, in which we become insulin resistant, cholesterol's high, blood sugar's high, overweight, all these things that are so common with those of us in my age bracket. So Syndrome X talks about how a lot of that is related to balancing your blood sugar. And so kind of an interesting read. This one's for those of you that are really heavy duty scientists. So this is called The Mineral Fix by Dr. James DiNicolantonio. Anyway, this one, each chapter is about a different mineral. And he talks about the studies and the foods and and how to test for each one of those minerals. It's more of a reference book than a read book, but it's kind of nice to have on your shelf. I must say, I'm hoping he comes out with a version 2. This one doesn't read real clearly sometimes, but it's a great resource for those that really want to dig into the science of the different minerals. I think that's all I've got for you guys. I see one question here. Does consuming calcium increase our body's own collagen? Okay, so there's a question in the chat, you guys, that says, does consuming collagen increase our body's own collagen levels? And yes, that it does. I'm sure there are examples where that's not true if somebody's digestion is particularly poor, things like that. But for the majority of people, consuming collagen does increase collagen in the body. But one of the things I would caution you towards, let's see if it shows it on here. Well, you won't be able to see it because it's in the fine print. But when you look at a collagen product, what you're looking for, you want it to say collagen peptides or hydrogenated collagen. What that means, collagen is this huge protein, lots and lots of amino acids all strung together. Your body has to break that down and digest it, reabsorb it, and rebuild it to make collagen in your body. If you consume collagen peptides, they've already done part of the work for you. They've already broken that collagen down into peptides that your body can directly absorb. And there's something interesting about the ratio of those peptides that helps your body recognize that they need to be reassembled as collagen.
Okay.
I don't know if that makes sense.
There's one more question. Can I take calcium and magnesium at the same time in the day?
Good question. And I think actually there's a little controversy on that right now. And I think the verdict's still undecided on that. I still take mine together. I take a bone product like the ones I'm showing you. I take mine at night because calcium and magnesium are both relaxing and calming. And also because you tend to do a lot of your bone rebuilding at night when you're resting. So I tend to take mine at night. So for now, I'm going to say, yes, it's okay to take them together, but let's sort of leave that a little seed planted that they're still researching how they interact when consumed as a supplement. And I think, I don't know your name, sir. It says Amy. So the gentleman that is raising his hand there.
Jim.
Okay.
It's Jim.
Okay, Jim.
He doesn't have a question. I think he's. Okay.
Okay. I'm not sure what he said because he was muted, but he doesn't have a question.
Okay. You have no question. Do you have a question, Jim? No. Okay. No problem. Yeah.
Yes.
I think he was just exercising his arm.
Exactly. That was
Exactly. I do that as well.
okay.
All right. So I think, are there any other questions anybody would like to add, either unmute or put into the chat?
I hope I didn't overwhelm you guys with science. Some of these can get a little meaty, but I think it's good information. So I hope you all got something out of it.
Good.
Oh, thank you.
Okay.
Sabrina. Thank you, Sabrina.
Okay. So I think we had a good session. I appreciate it. As I mentioned earlier, we have one more session, August 24th at 4 p.m. So if you have not already registered for that, you can do so. And we'd love to have you for that. I want to thank Deanna for sharing with us again. I appreciate it. Always very interesting. So it looks like we have some pretty good signs of appreciation. So her information is in the chat for both her phone number and her email if you need that. And if you can't get it fast enough, please feel free to contact me and I'll send that on to you.
And I